Hi, everybody. I'm here with Bryan Hanson, Assistant Director of the Werner Institute at Creighton University School of Law. And I've asked Bryan to join us, to join in on a project I'm putting together called Mediation Stories, Train Wrecks and Magical Moments. I make the name up again every time I talk to someone. Basically talking to people and trying to get a sense for what was your best moment and your worst moment, or what was not necessarily best or worst, but what was a great, positive, magical experience you've had in mediation, because we know those happen. And, what was a really awful train wreck experience you had, because we know those happen too. Bryan, I'm sure you've had many of both of those happen to you. Welcome aboard.
Thank you, Noam. Yes, there's a point in every mediation where you feel like, what is going to happen
here? and you told me before we went on camera, you told me that you want to tell a story that is both a train wreck and a magical moment.
It is. It's a situation that happened in a divorce mediation that I felt kind of, when you said train wrecks and magical moments, it's kind of what I reflect on whenever I think about ready to run out of a mediation as a mediator, or at least throw my hands up and say this is done.
Yeah.
And then have it just turn into a very powerful learning experience where everybody comes together.
Huh. Great tell. Go.
Great. So this is it's a divorce mediation. It's trying to help two parents that were already divorced and have been dealing with sharing custody of their children for probably about a year or so. But communication wasn't working out. Their ability to co-parent was impacted by the lack of communication, because nothing ever could happen where large arguments wouldn't erupt. So they come to mediation to try to figure out what can they do to set up a better pattern.
Mm-hmm.
And the mediation seemed to be going along the same lines that most of their conversations went in the past. At first, trying to understand, what's going on. Father is living in a new neighborhood after living with his family for 10 years in a home that they built. So he talks about how he just wants to be able to care for his children, wants to be an important part of their life, of course. Very, very concerned about his role as a father.
Yeah.
And wife understands that, wants to establish some boundaries, though, and is very interested in getting on with her own life after this year of being apart. So there's really no going. We're getting, two different stories, two different interests, until finally, at one point in the mediation, the father has been yelling quite a bit, the mother's crying a lot, and the father just says, "That's it, I need a break," and just takes off out of the room. And so as a mediator, we're like, boy, we're really getting nowhere here. They just can't seem to talk civilly, can't get on the same page about anything. Now the father's left, maybe we just call it in. So we say, okay, let's take a break, to the wife that's still in the room and crying at this point. And mediators step outside and we talk about what we're going to do. Father comes back in from outside taking a breather and says, okay, I'm ready to get back going. So it's like, oh, really? You're coming back now? You want to get going again? Yeah, I want to try. So we go back in the room. Say, okay, let's reconvene. And just a simple question, just saying, well, what happened there? Like, what's going on with you? Are you comfortable? And what happened there at that point with that question just elicited a transformation in the father. He broke down and he talked about how suddenly he just realized that what's going on is this change in his life. He was used to this home. What he was doing was he had his own keys to the house, so he would just show up.
Yeah.
And say, okay, okay, I'm going to take the kids and we're going to hang out, because it was his home. It was his neighborhood.
Right.
He would come and talk to the neighbors because they developed relationships over time. And now in this new situation, he felt that he lost his complete identity.
Yeah.
And the mother, hearing that, countered with, well, that's really good to hear, and you have to understand that I also, am trying to move on from our past identity and make a new life. And when you're stopping by anytime, it's impossible to do, because I feel like I'm still connected to this old life. And from there, we were able to create conversations that really talked about, well, what does, that old identity mean? How can we set that aside and focus on developing a new identity that is going to be capable of creating a new life that's ultimately beneficial for the children? Because the children were not having a good experience with the way that communication was currently going. And from there on, they agreed. The father handed over the keys that he had to the house.
Yeah.
And
in a very, very symbolic act of, this is no longer my life. Whatever is without the keys is now my life, and we need to figure that out, or I need to figure that out.
The keys to her new life going back to her.
Yeah.
Or going to her.
Yeah.
And they made set schedules of when they would come, and then like a protocol for when he wanted to stop by to see the kids, what he would do to communicate that. And at the end of this mediation, they ended up hugging, and which seems to be like the first time that they really connected as people that are going to be in this co-parenting relationship since they got divorced. So it was just really turned into a magical moment where 2 hours earlier I thought we were.
You were ready to hand back the keys and say, guys, I can't help here, and
good luck, and it just kind of shows the power of mediation.
Yeah.
And the power of good questions, and letting people just go through that process to try to come to a realization on their own, rather than force something upon them.
Wow, Bryan, thank you so much. That is a truly magical story, and really, as I like to tell people, it's not that this kind of stuff always happens in mediation, because I don't want to paint too rosy a picture of what it is that we do and we deal with. But mediation always has the potential for something like that to happen, and you never know. You just never know where if you cast the right hook, you ask the right question, or just shut up when you should be shutting up, or whatever it is that you should do, and just listen very carefully and let parties work things out. That kind of stuff can happen, and that's magic.
Exactly.
Okay. Wow. Thanks so much, Bryan.
Yeah, thank you, Noam.